Hello everyone and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. We'll be exploring some fascinating aspects of human behavior and development. The title of our session is Questions, and we'll be diving into three key areas. First, we'll look at environmental perception, cognition, and attitude. Then, we'll discuss social interaction and its relationship with the environment. Lastly, we'll examine how the environment impacts personality development and individual differences. I look forward to guiding you through these topics and engaging in some insightful discussions. Let's get started. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's start by looking at the definition of perception. Perception is essentially the process by which we take in sensory information from our environment, things we see, hear, touch, taste, or smell, and then interpret and make sense of it. This process is what allows us to understand our surroundings and respond appropriately. It's not just about passively receiving information, it's about actively making meaning from what we experience. Now, when we talk about the nature of perception, it's important to note that it's a very immediate and transient experience. It happens quickly, often without us even realizing it, and it can change from moment to moment. Our perceptions are influenced by our current experiences, our emotional state, and even our expectations at any given time. So, perception is not fixed. It's fluid and shaped by our ongoing context. Finally, let's consider the components involved. Perception isn't purely cognitive, meaning understanding. It also involves affective or emotional responses. For example, we might perceive a situation as safe or threatening, and those feelings influence how we interpret what's happening. Both understanding and emotional reactions work together to form our overall perception of our environment, guiding our behavior and responses. In summary, perception is a dynamic, multifaceted process that helps us navigate the world, and understanding this can help us better understand human behavior and experience. Let's explore the concept of environmental cognition. This term refers to how people perceive, understand, and mentally represent their natural and built environments. Essentially, it's about the way we interpret the world around us, including our surroundings and ecosystems. When we talk about perception in this context, we're looking at how individuals become aware of environmental issues and how they form mental images or models of their ecological settings. The scope of environmental cognition is quite broad. It includes understanding people's awareness of environmental problems, their knowledge about ecological systems, and how they interpret the significance of these issues in their daily lives. By studying this, we can better understand how people think about the environment and what influences their attitudes and behaviors towards sustainability. This understanding is fundamental to developing effective environmental education and policy, aligning perfectly with the overall goal of fostering a more environmentally conscious society. Let's talk about environmental attitudes. First, an attitude is essentially how we feel about the environment, our overall emotional response, how we evaluate it, and our general disposition towards it. It's not just a fleeting thought, it's a more stable way of how we view and relate to our surroundings. Now, these attitudes are shaped by various factors, including our past experiences, our beliefs, and how we process environmental information cognitively. So, what we've encountered or learned over time influences whether we develop a positive or negative attitude towards the environment. And these attitudes matter because they influence our behaviors. For example, if someone has a positive attitude towards recycling, they're more likely to engage in recycling and conserving resources. Conversely, a negative attitude might lead to indifference or even harmful actions, like littering or wasting resources. Understanding environmental attitudes is crucial because they form the foundation for encouraging pro-environmental behaviors. When we foster positive attitudes, we can motivate people to take actions that benefit the environment. It's all about connecting emotions and beliefs to behavior, which is key in driving meaningful change. Let's talk about interconnectedness, which is really at the heart of understanding how our perceptions and attitudes shape our actions. First, perception to cognition. This is where sensory input comes in. When we perceive something through our senses, our brain doesn't just register it passively. It actively processes that information, leading to a deeper understanding of our environment. This cognitive processing helps us interpret what we're experiencing and make sense of the world around us. Next, from cognition to attitude, how we mentally process environmental information directly influences how we feel about it. For example, if we interpret data about climate change as urgent and serious, that cognitive understanding can shape our feelings and evaluations, forming a specific attitude toward environmental issues. Finally, attitude to behavior. Our attitudes are powerful because they guide our actions. If we have a positive attitude toward sustainable practices, we're more likely to engage in behaviors that support the environment. Conversely, if our attitude is dismissive or indifferent, our actions may be harmful or neglectful. All of these steps are interconnected, highlighting how perception influences cognition, which shapes our attitudes and ultimately drives our behaviors. Recognizing this chain helps us understand how to foster positive change by addressing each link in the chain. Let's talk about environment and social interaction. These are crucial factors that shape our experiences and behaviors. First, the environment refers to the physical and social settings we find ourselves in, which can influence our mood, productivity, and overall well-being. For example, a well-lit, organized workspace can boost our focus, while a chaotic one might do the opposite. Social interaction, on the other hand, involves how we communicate and connect with others. It's not just about talking, it's about understanding social cues, building relationships, and collaborating effectively. These interactions can significantly impact our motivation and sense of belonging. When we consider both environment and social interaction together, we see they're deeply interconnected. A positive environment fosters better social interactions, and strong social bonds can make our environment more supportive and engaging. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how these elements are vital for creating spaces, whether physical or virtual, that enhance our overall experience and productivity. So, paying attention to environment and social dynamics is key to optimizing our personal and collective success. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Social interaction is really the dynamic process through which we act and react in relation to others around us. It's not just about talking or exchanging words, but also about how we communicate, cooperate, or sometimes even conflict with each other. These interactions shape how we influence those around us and are essential to understanding human behavior. Psychologists often see social interaction as the foundation of society itself, because it influences so much of who we are, our identity, our behaviors, the norms we follow, and the relationships we build. It's through these interactions that we develop a sense of self and connect with others, creating the social fabric that holds our communities together. So, when we think about the overall theme of human behavior, remember that social interaction is at the core. It's the ongoing process that constantly shapes and reshapes our social world. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Environmental factors, such as upbringing, culture, geographic location, and life experiences, play a significant role in shaping our personality. These influences can really mold who we are and how we see the world. One of the most famous studies in this area is the Minnesota study of twins. Researchers there looked at both identical and fraternal twins who were separated at birth to understand how much of our personality is influenced by genetics versus environment. The study revealed that about 70% of the variation in IQ could be linked to genetic differences, while the remaining 30% was due to environmental factors. This highlights how environment impacts personality development and individual differences, but also how genetics set a foundation. Overall, this research underscores the importance of both nature and nurture in shaping who we are.